Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet, get an isolation with the linebacker. We tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. You look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay, here to talk a little Packers this evening. I know we had people in the chat mentioning we did 3 shows today. I was telling Tim, man, after the interview with Mike Wall earlier, I came in here and was like, you know what? I want a Chicago-style pizza. So we had some deep dish pizza delivered, right? I ate half of that thing, which was probably about 8 pounds of food. And then I said, you know what? I don't feel like doing a show tonight. So I lay down, take a 2.5-hour nap, woke up and went, you know what? Let's do a show. So here we are. So appreciate you being flexible, Tim. How was your day, man?
Oh man, it was great, man. I got to catch most of the Mike Wall show today while I was out running around being Santa Claus. So I didn't get to take any notes, but man, Mike had some great input as always, man. And I just love the no nonsense. Just like, see it, got to say it. He calls it like it is.
Right.
I loved your discussion about the way the game has changed. You know, like Mike telling you, like, oh, go ahead, you can say it. It's soft. It's soft football now. You know, that was just great coming from really one of the last of the Mohicans when it comes to, you know, that era of football. So always love to see Mike when he's talking Packers football with us, man. So that was a great show, Clayton.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. You can see it all over the tape there in that 2002 Week 1 matchup between the Packers and the Falcons went to overtime. Bro, I was doing this the whole time, Tim, going, God, some of the hits, I mean, they were popping pads. And it was just every play someone came up and looked at the sideline, had to go to the sideline. It was just, different era, man. It's funny, too, because that's the time that I became a true NFL fan and a Packer fan, was right around 2003. And when you go back and watch, at the time when you're watching it, you don't think, man, these guys are hitting. And then now to get kind of accustomed to the new age of football, and then you go back and watch it, it's like, man, they were laying the wood, dude. There's no doubt about it. So it's always good stuff, though. Appreciate everybody in the chat. We got us a huge crowd in here. A lot of people chatting it up. We're going to kind of jump right into the show. Basically, we're going to pick up where we left off. Okay, we're going to pick up with. We're going to talk about the injuries. We're going to hit a little bit on Jaden Reed, and Paul Brittle had a cool little nugget on LVN. And we're going to get to the tier 2 positions of importance, right? Center, safety, and linebacker, and kind of evaluate and go, okay, can we improve the team at these positions, right? Most of you guys just heard that and went, yeah, guarantee it. I agree. It seems like you got more needs at tier 2 than you do tier 3 or tier 1, although tier 1, like we said, interior defensive line is the one that really sticks out to me. Trying to find somebody who can play kind of both the run and the pass at an elite level. That would be the overall home run you want to hit. We're also going to comment on Devondre Campbell's situation. He has spoken out today and pretty much confirmed what we said here. He wasn't talking about the coaches. He wasn't talking about the scheme. He was talking about the fans who were basically being rude to him on Twitter. That's essentially what it came down to. So we'll kind of talk about those comments. We'll actually screenshot a couple of comments that fans have made. And I just want to make it aware for the people that watch this show, listen to this show. Let's don't be those fans, right? Let's be the logical fans. Let's be the fans that root the players on and not try to make emotional tweets in the moment that makes people not want to play here. It's amazing how people are now saying, you know, they won't want to play here because of Joe Barry. They don't want to play here because of Matt LaFleur. And it's like, do you ever stop and think that maybe it might be how the fans are treating them too? You think that comes into play a little bit? And I know some people will say, look, they're professionals. They shouldn't be on Twitter. Okay, got you. Shut up and dribble. I understand. but they are human beings. And when things are going good, social media is awesome, Tim. They love it. You love the interaction with the players. Team starts losing, it's get this guy out of here. He's a bum. But
that argument doesn't apply, man. I'm sorry. You name a profession in the world right now that doesn't have some kind of social media attached to it. I don't care what you do, man. You got guys selling used tires that got social media presence. So, if you're a professional, that doesn't matter. He's got every right to go to his feed and tweet whatever the heck he wants, just like we do. And that's what it is. Everyone's got a platform now. Everyone's got the megaphone, and some people have bigger audiences than others, and it is what it is. Honestly, I mean, I think it's just a little frustration, and you're right, Clayton, maybe a little bit of lack of respect here, at least in the online world, the social media verse of it all. I'm pretty sure in-person fan interactions with Devondre Campbell don't go that way.
No, you kidding me, Tim?
Most of these internet tough guys and internet gangsters out there are softer than, a baby butt when it comes to real life. So, I think Dre was just, he picked the right space to do that, right? You see it there, you address it. Yeah, he kind of talked, in the third person or whatever people wanted to, pick apart his linguistic abilities or whatever. Again, free speech, free platform, not talking about the staff, not talking about the team. He's talking about, knuckleheads like our fellow Packer fans out there, right, Clay? I mean, that's really what it was. I think he was just venting a little,
Right. And of course, his wife is on there, Mrs. Campbell. She's awesome. Ran into them in Green Bay last year at a restaurant in Green Bay. I won't name the place, but it was just, they just seemed like an awesome couple, just two normal people. And he was just, when he walked into the restaurant, you wouldn't think, oh, that's someone special. He was right there at the counter waiting on their table like everybody else, and just seems like a really humble, good dude. He does. I like that he speaks truth. I like that he speaks what's on his mind. I appreciate that about people, but I'm not the fan that's sitting back going, you shouldn't shut up. You're a professional athlete. You shouldn't be able to talk. It just doesn't make sense to me, man. It's what we want. We want that interaction. We want to be able to kind of feel connected to the player, the coaches, the staff, everything about the organization. But when things go wrong, we want to play internet tough guy and try to, like you said, say things that you darn sure wouldn't say to their face, So let's see here in the chat. Doug says, oh, yes, someone put tape of Mike Allstott running the ball on X today. Just brutal. Mike Allstott was one of my favorite players, man. He was just unbelievable to watch run the football and block, too. There was nothing better than seeing him in an ISO play catch a flat, and then you look up and there's a corner on the edge playing zone. It's like, oh, that poor little bastard. This is not going to go well. Mike Allstott is so much fun to watch. Chris in the chat said, can you imagine how long the injury report would be today if they played like the old timers? Oh my goodness. Imagine if you took a team today and a team from 2002, like we talked about, and had them go head to head in their prime with how the players have been conditioned today as opposed to back then. Oh my gosh, man. You could probably say the same thing about 2002 to the 60s Packers.
Oh yeah.
Ray Nitschke running around out there with no teeth, and you know what I mean? Just
I tell you, in that era, nobody looked for a flag. Right. I don't care who you were. You weren't looking. How receivers raise their hand now, right? Hey, give me a flag. And then like 70% of the time they get one. That didn't happen back in the old days, man. And one of the things I always loved about old school football too was there were bad calls just like there are today, right? Missed calls, right. Terrible calls. Back then you just shut up and dealt with it. Exactly. The game just continued, and that was it. We didn't have, all 22. We had one camera, two cameras, It was just a different breed. So, yeah, man, rest in peace to the old school football, man. I love that era so much.
Yeah, I do too. When you kind of follow along with, with CTE and everything, though, I understand why the game changed. It had to. It got so bad. The things that the players were dealing with, pretty much on a regular basis it's rough. All right, let's go to the injury report here real quick. I got the camera off so you can see my nostrils up in the cam here on this little tablet. Let's see. Jair Alexander was limited. Devondre Campbell did not participate. We'll talk about him on the end of the show. A.J. Dillon, limited participation. Kingsley Enagbare, limited. Elton Jenkins did not participate. Aaron Jones, limited. Jonathan Owens limited. Jaden Reed did not participate with. It looks like he has a toe injury along with the chest injury now. TJ Slayton limited. Luke Tenuta was back in a limited fashion. That was kind of cool. Quay Walker limited. Christian Watson did not participate. Dontavian Wicks limited, and Emmanuel Wilson limited. So when you look at the Carolina Panthers, we're just kind of keying on their did not participate. Looks like that Brian Burns, their edge rusher, they're a pretty solid player, did not participate with an illness. And then, of course, you've got several other did not participate. So, like an outside linebacker. You've got, let's see, another outside linebacker with a back and an illness. He did not participate. That's Haynes Sr. You've got a cornerback, Troy Hill. Did not participate, but that looks like that's more of a veteran rest day. And then you've got Taylor Moulton, I think is who it is at tackle. Kind of hard to read. Did not participate. Another resting day for him. And then a ton of limited. I mean, they've got just about as many injuries they're dealing with as we do. And we know Carolina's been one of the worst teams in the league. I think we all feel comfortable saying that doesn't matter at this point in the season, right? We've learned that the last 2 weeks, obviously. So just wanted to kind of touch on the injury report, kind of set the stage as we get a little later here in the week and talk about kind of what's to come. And we'll keep an eye on those injuries and see who's going to be healthy for the game there on Christmas Eve in Carolina. Really excited about watching that. It should be a fun one, man. You're sitting around on Christmas Eve. If you're like me, you may have some family already coming in. You know, we're kind of in the eggnog a little bit. We're snacking around before the big day, and it's going to be a good day, a good fun day to watch some football for sure. So let's do this, man. A couple other things. You know, earlier we talked about the receiver room a bit, right? We also talked about the edge room. I thought this was really cool, Tim. Green Bay Packers tweeted this out. It's a quote from Jaden Reed. Such a mature guy to be a rookie and to be that young, Tim. He said, quote, "It's just an honor to be in company with him. Back in 1988, Sterling Sharpe caught 55 passes for the Packers, breaking Billy Houghton's rookie total of 53, which had stood for 36 years. Jaden Reed is knocking on the door of that mark, currently sitting at 54 with 3 games to go." So, you know, like I said, he caught 55 passes, so we're just one away from the record, right, Tim?
That's right. So we'll have a new record holder at the end of this season. So congratulations, Jaden Reed. You know, I'm assuming he'll break it Sunday.
Yeah, most likely. And that's the cool thing, too. You know, immediately when you see these records, you think we play more games today than we did back then. You kind of go, oh, should there be an asterisk? The fact that he should, if he stays healthy, fingers crossed, he should blow past it, and there would be no question that he actually broke it. You know what I'm saying? It'd be different if it's like you had one extra game or however many extra games to break it by 2 catches. That's a little bit different feel to it. So legitimately looks like he's going to surpass Sterling Sharpe, so definitely in good company there. And I love that he acknowledged it, too. It's just an honor to be in company with him. It just says a lot about him and his maturity. Another cool tweet from Paul Brettel. He said, in the last 4 games, Lucas Van Ness has 6 pressures and ranks 8th among all edge rushers in PFF pass rush productivity. According to Jason Rabrovich, Van Ness's growth all starts with a better understanding of the pre-snap process. So we talked about him learning the system, learning the scheme, understanding what his responsibilities are, understanding his gap responsibility, understanding when it's okay to pin his ears back and run. You played some quarterbacks that are mobile. Maybe it's one of those things that there's certain calls where you're going to punch, pull, and then drop back just a touch to make sure they don't rush up the middle. You know, they don't scramble up the middle through one of those passing lanes. So it's just cool to see him kind of come to his own. And when you start seeing stats like this, in the last 4 games, Van Ness has 6 pressures and ranks 8th among all edge rushers in PFF's pass rush productivity. That really says a lot about him, Tim. I'm excited about LVN and Jaden Reed. Here you got 2 rookies that, you know, Goody knocked out of the park. You got LVN who's doing things like that in the stat column. And then, of course, you've got Jaden Reed getting ready to surpass Sterling Sharpe. I mean, I feel really comfortable saying this is Goody's best draft class of his career. I mean, what do you think, man? You're muted, Bubba.
Sorry about that. There it is. That's my one for the night.
There you go.
Arguably, yeah, for sure. I'm sure there'd be plenty of people that would like to debate that all night long. But I agree with that, man. I think so. Certainly the best we've seen in a while from Goody, if not the best of his career as a GM. But, you know, Jaden Reed is just something special. And, you know, LVM, when he got here, we knew he was something special, you know, but very raw talent. Had to get his legs under him. And you could see the progress, you know, throughout this season. Looking at where LVN is now compared to, like, say, the first, 4 games of the year, you can see a lot of improvement. And that guy's got a high ceiling. So, you love to see it. You love to see him hit on both sides of the ball. Let's, like we said earlier, hopefully he, knocks another draft out of the park and gets us some interior defensive line, maybe shore up the O-line a little,
Yeah, definitely. Bleeding Green and Goat says, no doubt, Doug, he was unstoppable. I could have cried when the injury took him from the game early, talking about Sterling Sharp. Yeah, I mean, he still should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
I can't believe when he hurt his neck, man, that to show you how old school, man, they popped a rivet into the back of his helmet and put a chin strap. They literally took a chin strap and snapped it to the center of that rivet and then snapped it in on his shoulder pads in the back of his neck to give him some stability. And the man continued to play football. I mean, there's football cards, there's pictures of it. You can see this extra, it's basically a chin strap on the back of his helmet. And I can't help but wonder, like, did that help, or did that just make the neck injury worse?
Right.
I mean, I always think, man, Sterling Sharp would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer if he had a little bit longer of a career. I think that's the only argument these people have, is that, oh, well, he didn't play long enough. That seems to be the popular argument. And it's like, well, would another 3-4 seasons of, excellence at wide receiver, would that change your mind?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different ball game, man. That's for sure. Today, Deadfish in the chat says Packers have 153 total rookie receptions, 5th in NFL history. The 1960 Texans are number 1 at 175 receptions. And Jen Wright says all rookies have made major contributions. Completely agree. And Jen says, going to break that record, Deadfish. I think so too. Don't you, Tim? I mean, you're talking about how many games we got left? 3? Got 3 games left, and you just need, well, let's see here. Yeah. I mean, the chances are these catches are going to be made by rookies. I mean, you got Romeo Doubs might be the only one that's healthy, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a second-year player outside of, well, I guess Malik Heath. Malik Heath's a rookie, right? Yeah. Am I thinking right, Tim?
Yeah. Malik Heath's a rookie. Yep.
It's Bo Melton who isn't, so he may snag some of those that kind of take away, But
if Bo doesn't get snatched off of our practice squad here before we put him on the active roster again,
right? Yeah,
I've heard the rumor mill swirling about possibly Buffalo wanting to grab him.
Yeah, so we need 22 catches from rookies to break that record. Last week. They had 19 last week, I think is what Deadfish is saying there. He says late week, but I think he's saying last week. So with that being said, you only need 25. Yeah. I mean, you got 3 games to do it. You should break that record. That says a lot, man, especially for a lot of people going into this year going, man, what in the world are you thinking with this young, rookie, this young receiving core, right? I was one of those people that was like, man, we need some veteran presence in that receiver room. And I think it would have helped early. But you're seeing them turn the corner, man. It's hard to argue with the results. I mean, they're really starting to amp up. Tay Wicks has got me so excited, man. Yeah. You let him show just a little bit more, that jersey's going to be hanging on the wall in the studio, man, because I'm telling you, he is so much fun to watch. There's no 2 ways about it. All right. So hit on all that. Let's talk about the Tier 2 positions here, Tim. Earlier today, we covered all the Tier 1, right? Well, when it comes to Tier 2 of importance, right? On the offensive side of the ball, there's one position, and that's center for me, okay? So when you look at the current center on the roster, the only one that matters, obviously, is Josh Myers. He's the only, technical center on the roster. But offensive grade 61.1, pass blocking 60.8, run blocking 58.8. So when you look at Josh Myers, one thing, if you're going to try to be positive, as Coach Mike would say, you got to point out his durability. I mean, he is always available. Right, Tim. That goes a long way. I know some people were saying cut him, get rid of him. I'm not in that camp. I'm simply saying I am not sold on him being the center of the future. So if you've got 1 more year left on his contract, if I understand correctly, next year's the last year on his contract. If you get a better option in the draft at some point and you want to draft the center, you're not going to find a better backup than Josh Myers, right? Now, we've heard the coaching staff talk about him too, Tim. They say he's playing the best football of his career. They seem sold on him. Now, is that coach speak? It could be. I can't read their mind, but I wouldn't be surprised too if they sign him to an extension. If it was my decision, I would not give him that extension. I would let him play out this contract and then let him test free agency, try to find your center of the future. And if there's nothing there as far as a market for Josh Myers, then you know what you do, you save a little money there, right? Like you sign him back on whatever the veteran minimum is, right?
Yep.
So I think with his size, his durability, and his athletic ability, just his athletic profile, someone would be willing to pay him more than probably I would be willing to pay him if I were the GM. But again, it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is what the front office actually thinks. And I think Goody and them are pretty high on him. So what do you think about Josh Myers? Would you rather see him as the center of the future, or do you think it would be something that you would like to see him replace him in the near future?
I don't know how to give a straight answer to that other than that I'll take your approach. I think we let him play it out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't think we move on. I think if we're able to snag someone even late round in the draft, possibly, again, Jake Shavink would be a good person to kind of pick his brain and see what this draft is looking like as far as centers in the late rounds. But I do think you're right, because I don't think there would be a big market for Josh Myers. Now, there are lots of centers that are worse than him in the NFL, but I don't think there'd be a super competitive market. So it would be a chance for us to get him to stay in Green Bay for relatively cheap, and then we can have competition at camp and see where it goes, right? I don't know. I'm not sold on him as the center of the future, I guess. But you're right. There's something to say about the reliability and durability factor where he's there and he's available. And you got to think the more he's there and he's available and he's playing this position, he should get over the hump at some point. There should be some kind of settling into veteran status here in your career as you grow in this league. And who knows, man, you never know. Maybe playing, in front of Jordan is going to make him better. I don't know. I haven't seen him Jordan scream at Josh yet this year. So, we all talk about Jordan's got a different style of leadership, he seems kind of more like big brother type of leader, put his arm around you, give you a pat on the head and, talk you up, give you that kind of motivation and tell you to shake it off when you do make a mistake. So who knows? But I understand the lack of patience that fans have when it comes to our play at center, although recently it hasn't been as horrendous as we've seen in the past. So,
right.
Maybe we're in a good situation here, see how it plays out.
Yeah, let's see what the chat says here. Redmo46 says best ball of his career equals greatest shape of his life, in my opinion. Could be. You never know. Let's see here. Deadfish says Mike Wall said he was playing better. Mike did say that. And if you'll remember earlier in the season, he said, Clayton, listen, Josh Myers is an average offensive lineman. That's what he said. Right. Something else that he said today, too, if you guys picked up on it, one of the last questions I asked him at the end of the pod was, I said, Mike, I got to ask you about the offensive line before we go. How do you see it from left to right? How do you see it? It took him a minute to answer it. It really did. But in the end, his answer, Tim, was essentially Elton Jenkins at left guard, Zach Tom at right tackle. Everyone else, you need to look to improve. You need to look to find an improvement at those. I specifically asked him about Rasheed Walker, obviously come off arguably the best game of his career. I said, Mike, you pointed out to me that he had good feet early in the year. Do you still feel that way about him? That's when he said he kind of danced around just a touch, not intentionally, was just trying to find the right wording. And then that's when he said, essentially, Elton Jenkins left guard, Zach Tom right tackle. Everything else is on the table. So there you go. So yes, but you're right, Deadfish. He did say he was playing better for sure. But again, he thinks you can make a big improvement there at 3 of those 5 positions on the offensive line. Bleeding Green and Gold says, too often I see Myers blocking nobody, a center blocking nobody. Sometimes the defensive scheme is the reason for that, Bleeding Green and Gold. We talk about it. All you got to do is line up in a double 4-eye and a double wide 9. If there's no threat to run, you can take the center out of the equation. I think you've seen a little bit of that this year, but I've also got to lean towards what you're saying. There's been several times I'm going, oh, man, he's kind of lost, And part of it could be you and I don't understand exactly what the blocking design is, right? We're not in the meeting room, but you definitely haven't seen much on tape where you go, yeah, that's the guy of the future. So just something to keep an eye on for sure as we go into the offseason. Derek K says he also said it wasn't good enough. Talking about Mike, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. Jen Wright said bring in competition. Completely agree with that. So competition is always a good thing in every position. Yep. If you can do it, if you can fit it on the roster. Red Mo says still think we ought to bring in real competition. So pretty unanimous across the board here in the chat. Derek K says draft high round center, all pro type. And I think what he's referring to there, Tim, is some people think, oh, you should never take a center in the first 2 or 3 rounds. If you want a good one, you better. That's how you get the Creed Humphreys, right? That's how you get the big name players. I know some centers in the past have gone late in the draft. I get it. That'd be ideal to be able to use a 4th, 5th, or 6th rounder and get a starting caliber center. But the fact of the matter is they fell that far because they were low on people's boards, meaning they were inaccurate in the information in their draft board. If you know a guy's a stud, don't be afraid to use a 2nd or a 3rd rounder to get. Heck, I'm okay with using a 1st rounder. If you told me you could use your 1st round pick this year to get the best center in the draft and someone who's going to be an all-pro level center for the next 10 years, use it. Do it. I don't even care if it's a top 10 pick. It's that important. It really is. I know it's tier 2, but if you're saying that you have a better center than the best left tackle in the draft, and I'm not suggesting that's the case, we're going to dive into the draft as we get into the offseason. But, if you were to tell me this center is 2 tiers ahead of the top tackle, take the center. I'm good with it. It's still that important of a position. It really is. But, again, like we said right here, good point. If this is accurate, I'm assuming it is, Chris. Chris said Corey Linsley was a 5th rounder. There you go.
Okay, but Corey Linsley was also another guy that we were complaining about the first couple of years of his tenure in Green Bay, and he turned out to become an all-pro. So we'll just leave it at that. We talked about that recently too, right, Clayton? It doesn't matter. 1st round, 5th round, undrafted. Talent comes from all angles. You're just increasing your odds the higher you draft, I think, based on, we talk about RAS, we talk about all the analytics that go into it. So you're making the most educated guess that you can really when it comes to drafting. But we see 5th round steals all of the time. We got a few on our team right now.
Yeah, you got that right, dude. Zach Tom, was he a 5th rounder? Am I thinking right?
4th or 5th, right?
4th. Maybe it was 4th, man. God, what a pick by Goody, dude. Absolutely crushed it. Crushed that pick. Deadfish in the chat said, can our current right guards, John Runyon Jr. or Sean Ryan, play center? I'd give him another year, draft a center if that works out, and let the competition pick the best. I might have to draft a center high in 2025. That could be the case. As far as those 2 guys, I've seen nothing to suggest that they would be a pick for a center of the future, they being one of our right guards. Both of those guys have underperformed. I know some people were getting excited about Sean Ryan. I get it. It's fun to see him out there because he just looks like the type of guy you want on your offensive line. He looks just he just looks like an absolute animal out there. Belly hanging out of the shirt, fuzzy hair. Just looks like he doesn't care about his appearance at all. He's going to go smack somebody in the mouth, right? You want him to. He fits the eye test, I guess you could say. Doug in the chat said centers are like quarterbacks in the sense they call out signals at the line. I don't know if you can pick a guard in college, then make him a center in the pros. It's definitely something that there would be a learning curve. Because you're right, you've got to be able to do it. We
talked about that with Quay on the other side of the ball, right?
Yes,
Quay being a Sam at heart, he's a Sam linebacker. Now he's playing the Mike,
right?
And it's like, oh, and by the way, switch right now as you're switching levels from collegiate to NFL, and the game's 10 times faster. It's more complex, it's more intense, more on the line. It's true. I agree with that sentiment. I don't like trying to change a guy around. Oh, well, you're a great tight end. Why don't you play wide receiver? Or what? It's like, correct me if I'm wrong. Usually you see the transition high school and college level. And then by the time they're in college, it's kind of like got an understanding of where they're going to play. I guess corner sometimes, your secondary players might switch, or you may have a guy that played receiver in college and becomes a corner in the NFL. That's probably a little more common. But I don't like that as an approach, though. Oh, we'll just take a guy that's athletic and talented and we'll just make him. We'll have him kick off for us too. Yeah, have him kick, do punt returns. I don't know.
Something that we take as fans, we take for granted too when it comes to center position is that snap. We sit here and pretend like it's just, any center should be able to snap. All you got to do is give the ball to the quarterback. Yeah, while Aaron Donald is breathing down your neck across the line, literally 6 inches from your face, Tim. Yeah, no big deal. Let's just get a clean snap off and then eat that hit.
What kind of snap are you talking about? Are you talking about under center? Are you talking about pistol, shotgun? What's the situation? Are we doing a direct snap? Are we running something fancy? I mean, Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. We've all got it figured out from the couch, though. You know how it goes. All right, let's go linebacker here. This is another tier 2 position of importance. You got 2 of those tier 2s, in my opinion, on defense. It's inside linebacker and safety. You guys know I'm all about the center of that defense. Some people are going, you don't have corner as a tier 2? Absolutely not, I don't. Especially when you're playing this style of defense. That's why it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to give Jair all that money just to play quarters coverage, right? To play that, stay on the same side of the field, that type of thing. That's why it's like, that was a little tough for me. Now, we're looking at most likely changing defenses, right? I think we would all agree probably 85 to 90% chance that's going to happen. If it does, maybe Jair becomes more valuable if you do go to a man-heavy scheme. You guys know I'm kind of cringing at that, but what I want to see is a multiple look. I want to see a defense that we've kind of evolved into, which is you're still playing quarters, you're playing spinner, you're playing cover 3, you're playing cover 7, cover 6, all those things we've talked about all year long. You're also mixing in cover 1 man. You need a different voice in that defensive room because right now it's just not working. But when you look at the linebacker position, this is such an oddity here. I know he's had limited snaps. I don't have the snap count up here, but we all know Eric Wilson hasn't seen a lot of action. But he leads the way according to PFF at a 73.9. His run defense grade is the reason at a 77.8, Tim. Second place, you've got Devondre Campbell at a 64.2. Again, we're going to talk about him as we wrap up the show. But it's all confirmed now. Devondre's been playing hurt all year long, trying to get over these injuries. He is not his old self. You could see it on Sunday. It was tough to watch him try to break on that ball. We talked about it. It's like, man, either he's lost a step or this guy's playing hurt. It's pretty much all been confirmed now. He's been playing hurt and just trying to get back out there. So Christian Welch is the third highest graded at 60.0. Then Isaiah McDuffie at 59.4. And then Quay Walker at 58.4. Now, some people are looking at it and going, no way, Quay's better than that. I respect your opinion. I do. What bothers me, not that you guys who, I'm just speaking hypothetically, there are some people that love to point out PFF until it doesn't prove their point. And then all of a sudden it's, well, that's just PFF. It doesn't mean anything until they want to prove a point again. I put a lot of stock in PFF. It's not the tell-all, end-all. But when I watch the tape and then I go back and look at the grades, it's very seldom I go, man, that grade didn't make sense. You can hear we almost guess it every week, Tim. We're like, yeah, I think he's going to be in the 60s. Yeah, he'll probably be in the 70s. You can kind of see it, even without watching the All-22. But Quay Walker, 58.4, man. He didn't grade out well last year either, although he, was a tackling machine. But essentially what you've got, if you were to say PFF is everything, and we're not saying that, let's play along with me here. You're suggesting that Devondre Campbell, although he is hurt, we all agree with that now, is the 54th highest graded linebacker, inside linebacker, okay? Isaiah McDuffie is the 63rd, and Quay Walker is the 68th. So obviously 32 teams in the league, 64 would be considered starting quality. Right now, according to PFF, Quay Walker is not a starting caliber linebacker. Isaiah McDuffie is barely a starting caliber. I wouldn't even really consider him that based off of PFF. Devondre Campbell is. He's a solid number 2 linebacker. We've seen him this year when they were both on the field. Quay Walker was wearing the green dot there early on too. So you can kind of see, we talked about it, Tim. It seemed like Quay had passed him up a bit. Quay's taking a step back now, right? Coverage grade, 57.5. 62.5 run defense grade, and you get you overall to 58.4. So when you look at these numbers here, Devondre Campbell's still under contract, right? He'll be back next year. I feel confident saying that. Quay Walker, obviously, still under his rookie contract. Got 2 more years after this year. He'll be back. That doesn't mean you can't improve this linebacker room. I'm not sold, Tim. I'm not convinced that we have our number 1 linebacker on this roster, man. Tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, or let me know if you disagree here. How do you see it? Do you think that these PFF grades are maybe a little misleading? You still believe that Quay could be that top guy? Devondre can be that top guy?
I still believe in Quay, of course, and I still believe in Devondre too.
But he's healthy, right?
Yeah, when he's healthy, exactly, in different respects. And same thing with Quay. As he gets, some more games under his belt. This is year 2 for him. We've seen a little bit of struggles, but another guy that's been dealing with injuries on and off all year. He had the groin issue. Now we have a shoulder issue. These aren't excuses. These are facts. These are things the guys deal with every day. And then they go out and they slam themselves into a brick wall 100 times and ask for more of it. So I think we need to be a little more patient as fans when these guys are trying to rehab or, when they are, quite frankly, playing through something that maybe they shouldn't be out there, but they're going to try and go. And if you're not seeing that same lights out play that you saw when they were 100%, well, that's part of football. That's what happens. But long-term, Clay, I think you might be right. I don't know if we could say there's a bona fide number one in this linebacker room, but I do see veteran leadership in Devondre Campbell, and a guy that will, start in a pinch, go to number 2 on the depth chart, be a backup guy, possibly third, up, down, all of this throughout a year as you bring in young talent and try and, find yourself a true number one, while also realizing that maybe it is Quay Walker. Maybe that still is your linebacker of the future. And maybe year 3 is his stride, or we see him finish this year strong. That may be overly optimistic, but I'm a Quay Walker dude. That's I still believe in him. And I believe in Zay McDuffie and Eric Wilson too, but maybe it's a free agent thing. Maybe this is an offseason move, or so I don't know. Maybe it's packaging picks and trying to get someone else here to kind of beef up that linebacker room a little bit more. But yeah, man, it's just you're only as good as your last game, right? And the last handful have not been great. But at least with Devondre, we know what the ceiling is for him. We've seen his high level play before. We've seen it here in Green Bay. We've seen it at times with Atlanta too. So, I know he's capable. It's just, as you get older, man, your body takes longer to heal, especially when you're going week to week in an NFL season. So it's got to be patient.
Yeah. Many people in the chat here, I know Jim was saying it looks like someone else here says maybe if they draft a Mike, it would solidify Walker as Sam. It makes all the sense in the world. It really does, and when we say Sam, obviously he's talking about a strong side backer. When you're in that nickel, the guy who lines up over top of the tight end there, your Mike being kind of that green dot, that guy in the middle when you're in 34 base. Essentially, you got 3 linebackers. Some people going, what are you talking about, Sam? Who's Sam? Whose uncle's that? We're talking about Will is a weak side backer. Mike is your middle linebacker. And then you've got Sam, which is your strong side backer. Okay.
I think we like Quay covering a tight end more than we like Quay covering a wide receiver, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the problem is when teams like Tampa throw quad look at you and a lot of trips, it's going to happen.
Sure.
I've completely refrained from making comments on people's posts. I try not to comment on people's tweets anyway. If I disagree, I'm not going to comment on it. If they ask me or jump in my mentions, we'll have a conversation. But I don't want to go to someone else's house and go, "You're wrong on this." But these people that are just convinced, like, "Oh, this is just a horrible scheme. How the heck do you got a linebacker covering Goblin?" You got a linebacker covering Goblin because they went 11 empty. They went 11 empty, and they had a tray set. They had a quad set, and then went to a tray set. Guys, if we were in a dime, like still even in a dime, if you've got the T on the boundary, you've got one of 2 options. You either keep Quay or Devondre, whichever backer's in that dime situation. He's either staying in the middle or you put him on the boundary. Let me ask you a question. If you get all this cover 1 man that you're wanting, do you want Devondre Campbell trying to cover a running back on a streak down the sideline? I know I don't, right? So you've got to pick your poison there. For every action you have, there's an opposite and equal reaction. In some cases, a stronger reaction that's going to put you at a disadvantage. To me, I would rather have him covering in the slot in a zone if you're going to be spreading them out and catching them in that disadvantageous situation there. So, it's football.
You're reactive automatically. You're playing defense. You're reacting to what that offense is doing.
And I know people play Madden and they go, "Well, I play dime when they're in 3 wide receiver sets." Okay, try that in real life and watch them run the ball down your throat. Like it's, you can't. There's no perfect answer to, "Oh, well, this is an easy fix here." They're getting coached up too, right? They're getting schemed up too. And that quad look, just that last second motion is what caused Quay to be hesitant in the middle of the field. When we showed you, they should have had a box look, a box right, triangle left, and instead you had a guy sitting in the middle of the field covering no one within 8 yards. It's not that Quay was like, "Screw it, I ain't covering nobody this play." It's got out schemed there. And that is on the coaching staff. There's no 2 ways about it. It's on the players not communicating too, which Mike Wall done a great job explaining all that. If you guys haven't watched that, go back and watch it. I don't want to put words into his mouth. You may come away with a totally different, understanding of what he was saying. And, we can agree to disagree. But for me, Mike pretty much confirmed everything we seen on tape. We talked about on tape, where it's just miscommunications, missed assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like an accountability problem in the building. It really does. One of the things Mike said was, you can put slap a sign up on the wall and say, there, we got a culture now. Read that sign. That's not culture. Like, it's something that's got to be hammered home on a daily basis. And it's got to be controlled by the players too, and the coaches. The coaches set the tone, and the leaders in the locker room carry that message throughout the year. It doesn't feel like you got any of that going right now. And if we're winning, we're not talking about it, right? But we're losing, so these things kind of stick out like a sore thumb. It's just the nature of the business for sure. So let's talk about safety. The last tier 2 position of importance. You guys know I'm big on safety. I've been screaming for years. We need a safety. We need a safety. I like Rudy Ford. He's got limited playing time this year. You could see right here, PFF wise, Rudy Ford leads the safety room once again. Although the coaching staff doesn't seem to think he's a starter. I'm not going to sit there and pretend like I understand more about football than them. That would be an absolute joke. But Rudy Ford, according to PFF, 69.8, coverage grade of 72.8. Hands down, he's 12 points higher than the closest person, who's Darnell Savage. So essentially what you've got here with these grades, Darnell Savage rebounded this year. Limited playing time, limited snaps because of the injury. I got you. But pretty big improvement from last year, although he's still a 65.9. When you rank them across the league, Tim, obviously 2 safeties going to be on the field at all times unless you're going to some kind of hybrid big nickel or a hybrid dime look where you're going to have 3 safeties on the field. So essentially, top 64, according to PFF, will be starting caliber, right? Starting quality. Rudy Ford, 32nd in the league, so he's starting quality. He's right there. He's basically a really good number 2 safety. Now, when you look at the safety position, if you're going to stay in the Fangio system, whether you try to bring in someone else who can continue to run it or you just want to change up the system altogether, if you're staying in the Fangio system, those safeties have to be very interchangeable. It's not just that you got a free safety, a strong safety. Typically how that works is both players have got to be willing to rotate into the box depending on the look. You want to give the same shell look with late rotation. That's kind of how it's played. But Rudy Ford, I've said it. I said it early in the year. They bench him. He was injured, but then he didn't get the starting job back. I think that's really hurt this defense. I think he's one of the only players in the secondary that's actually got an interception this year. But I'd like to see him bring him back. That sets the floor for your safety room. I feel like we're having the same conversation we had last year, Tim. And they let him test free agency. Obviously didn't get any offers, came back. That may be the route they take again. History would suggest that's probably what they're going to do. But as far as the safety room, 69.8 for Rudy, Darnell Savage 65.9, Benny Sapp 60.4, Zane Anderson 60.0, Jonathan Owens 57.1, and Anthony Johnson Jr. 49.7. To the best of my knowledge here, Tim, the only 2 safeties that are on this list that are under contract are Anthony Johnson Jr. and who is the other one? Zane? Is it Zane Anderson? Maybe I think Zane Anderson. Yeah. The only 2 that are going to be under contract after this year. So everyone else is going to test free agency most likely. So with that being said, Rudy Ford, I would like to see them go to him and just try to set that floor in the safety room and then go out and try to get aggressive and fix the safety room. So what do you think, Tim, when it comes to safety, man? Do you want to see Rudy back, or do you feel like that experiment's over and you just want to kind of start fresh?
No, I like Rudy Ford. I really do. And I think that, letting him test free agency and see what happens isn't going to hurt us. But I also think, giving him a, maybe a 3 or 4 year deal isn't going to kill us either. Because if we have a scenario where we obviously know Darnell Savage won't be a Packer next year, at least that's how we're assuming that, right? So
right.
If Savage isn't a Packer, and then let's say Rudy Ford, you let him test the market and he gets picked up. So now you don't have Savage or Ford, who are your 2 highest graded safeties. Jonathan Owens, he'll be testing the market, right? So you're left with Ant Johnson and Zane Anderson. Those are your starting safeties, in effect. And I like Anthony Johnson Jr., so I'm not complaining by any means. But I don't think you're doing yourself any favors if you let Rudy Ford just go.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they play this, and you're going to have some money to play with. Not a whole lot. It depends on if Bach comes back or not and how much of a pay cut he's willing to take, or if we're going to free up that full $20 million. But you may have a little bit of money to throw around there in that regard. Bleeding Green and Gold says, Clayton, there has to be adjustments, quote, coordinated into this D, and there just isn't. The scheme is fine. It's just not coordinated to these players correctly, my opinion. I think there's got to be some of that. bleeding green and gold. I think there's got to be some truth to that comment. There does. I mean, I've said all year, when I watch the tape, I don't see a problem with the scheme. I see blown coverages, and I see miscommunication. I see missed tackles. But that falls on the coaches too. There's enough blame to go around for sure.
Because if they're not communicating to the players in a way that's reaching them, and then the players are by default, how are they going to communicate with each other? You know what I mean? They have to know. They have to buy in and know what's going on.
Absolutely.
We're 15 weeks into a season and we're still looking surprised out there. That's not a good look.
Bingo. And if you go listen to that Mike Wall interview earlier, the vibe I came away with was this is on the players more than anybody. Like, if you're not communicating on the field and these are day one install problems and you're still not getting it, that's on the player. He said sooner or later, you're a professional athlete. You've got to take responsibility. Go, okay, I'm not going to make these same mistakes again. But I think Mike would agree too. You can't look up and go, well, the coaches are doing a good job, or else it wouldn't be as big of a mess as it is, right? So, yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to what you said there, bleeding green and gold. Chris in the chat says, re-sign Rudy Ford. I like it. Seems like everybody's kind of high on Rudy. It doesn't mean you got to break the bank. Obviously, it's going to be a very cheap contract, but do something to set the floor there. I think it's important. Doug said, has Owens has come around the last few games, though? I don't think so, Doug. I mean, he's had good games and he's had more bad games than good games. Jonathan Owens is kind of a thumper, right? His strength is tackling. The problem is it's all over the tape, missed tackles this year, right? So just because, let me put it this way, just because he's the best tackler, right, on a team that's bad at tackling doesn't make him a good tackler, in my opinion. That would be like going to my hometown in Harlan County, Kentucky, and saying I won the spelling bee. That don't say a whole lot. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. So, but, if you're suggesting, hey, cheap contract like we're talking about Rudy Ford to help set the floor there, I would be okay with that. To the tune of $2 million a year, something like that. Yeah, we could swing that. And you got a guy who knows the system and has had some good games. I just don't see him as the answer. That safety. The same as I really don't see Rudy Ford as the answer anymore. At one point I did, but the fact that the coaching staff doesn't believe in him and he was essentially made a backup halfway through the season, there's got to be something they've seen. There's got to be a reason they didn't see him as a starter, Just because I like what I see of him doesn't mean I'm right, So just kind of, I don't know, I kind of see it that way for sure. So let's see, Jake Shavink, he always comes in here and says, let me tell y'all how we can fix this with the draft. He says, Dejan, or DeJean, is it Dejan or DeJean? I've heard people pronounce it both ways. McKinsky, talking about Kool-Aid McKinsky. Kitchens, all the DBs. Hey, load up with it. Jake, one way you can guarantee that you hit home runs at positions is take multiple swings, right? If you want to fix a position of need, take 2 or 3 swings. And if you've only got 2 safeties on the roster and those 2 being bottom roster guys, no better time to take multiple swings in the draft. You guys know, man, I was all about fixing the safety room during this last draft. But then again, you see what Paul Brettel said about LVN. Another solid pick from Goody there. Seems like he's fast tracking. He's actually on pace quicker than Rashawn Gary. That was another tweet I was going to put up, and I know I didn't screenshot it. Somebody compared Rashawn Gary's rookie year to LVN's rookie year, and LVN has already surpassed Rashawn Gary, in that regard. And it looked like they had similar playing time too. So it's not like LVN's just got more opportunities, So I think that's a solid play. The thing I appreciate about LVN the most, he seems to play schematically sound. PFF suggests, they agree, right? They indicate they agree. He holds up pretty well against the run, in my opinion. He can set the edge. He's starting to develop a backup pass rush move. We've seen some of these punch, pull, and rips, right? You're seeing him start to learn how to play the game a little bit better at that position, being a raw talent. But the thing I love the most about him is several times this year post-play, seeing him pull people off the pile and get people away from his teammates. He knows he's arguably the biggest guy on the field, and he's throwing his weight around a little bit like they're going to know, by God, I'm on this field. When he ran down Justin Fields in week 1 and slung him to the sideline, and then he sacks Patrick Mahomes and does the whole Kelsey bow and arrow celebration, I'm like, that guy right there. That's going to be our J.J. Watt. I'm not suggesting he is J.J. Watt or will be a Hall of Famer. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he's going to be that spark plug for this defense. As a rookie, he's stepping in that room, and you can tell he's kind of – his attitude with his teammates is like, hey, look, I got your back. And that goes a long way. We need that attitude on this defense. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how that is going. So let's see here. We can't get through we got you, Jake. We knew you were talking about with Kool-Aid McKinstry. I'll screw up the names every day, bro. You're in the right place if you're screwing up names. I promise you that. Mike Ebring in the chat said, assuming Joe is gone, then sure. I'm thinking Joe's gone. I can't see a scenario where he lasts through this season or, makes it back next year. I think they'll let him finish the year. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't look up and go, oh, wow, I can't believe they kept him. That would be the most Matt LaFleur thing to do, right? And I feel sorry for Matt if it happens, because if it does, Tim, it's going to get –
you better win a Super Bowl.
It's going to get loud, my friend. It is going to get loud quick. Ain't no doubt about that. So, all right, let's do this. Let's kind of finish up with a little Devondre Campbell talk here. Trying to think of how to word this. Maybe it's a public service announcement, I guess you could say. First of all, let me do this. Let me do this first. BetUS is the official sports book of Packers Total Access Live. I want to give a special shout out to them. Appreciate them sponsoring the show. If you guys like to put a little action on the game, you want to join on some of our group prop betting that we're going to be doing this year, just kind of looking at some of the low risk bets, kind of give you a best shot of winning a prop bet, mostly unders. Then you can kind of hop in on that with us. But if you'll click on the link in this YouTube video, in the description of this YouTube video, you can click on that link and register for free as a customer of BetUS, and it'll create your profile. It just takes a couple minutes to do. That'll actually give us credit for bringing you to BetUS, and it puts us in better standing with them. We appreciate them sponsoring the show. When you look at the PFF Green line this week, they had earlier this week, the Packers were 4.5-point favorites over the Carolina Panthers. I checked earlier today, and when you go to BetUS and their interface, their app, Green Bay is actually 5-point favorites over there. Okay, so if you want to kind of keep an eye on the updated lines, give that a look. As we get closer to game day, we'll see if we can't spot a prop bet or two that we go, you know what, that under might hit. And again, like we always say, gamble responsibly. Don't bet $1 single, $1 single cent that you can't afford to lose. That's always the rule of thumb. Okay, know your limits. And again, that's BetUS, the America's favorite sports book, celebrating their 30th year in business. We appreciate them being the official sports book of Packers Total Access Live. Make sure you click on that link for us in the description. It's just another way for free that you can support our show, and we definitely appreciate you guys and gals doing that. So let's kind of get into the Devondre Campbell talk real quick. Let's wrap up with it. Tim, you good with that, man?
Yeah, let's talk about Dre.
Yeah, it got a little dicey. I just want to kind of point out, there's still people that are not telling the truth. And I just want to take a second and explain exactly what went on here. This is not me having inside information. This is simply following along. It's amazing how people are dug in on this is all Joe Barry's fault. Joe Barry's a bad coach. Nobody's arguing that, right? But Devondre Campbell, tweeted this out. We talked about it yesterday. Not going out of my way anymore, and I'm not playing through injuries anymore, because when crap hits the fan, or when crap goes wrong, they always use it against you. And people go, who are they? Is he talking about the coaching staff? I'm treating everyone accordingly and giving them the same energy they give me. Focus on yourself and your mental, 59. You owe it to yourself, right? So immediately people took to Twitter and they would comment underneath it. You see it got a ton of activity. It's the numbers are way higher than this now. Immediately people were like, he's talking about Joe Barry. He's talking about the coaching staff. He's like, man, they're ruining this team. They're all for this one coach and this and that. Well, he was asked today in the locker room, right? These are the questions that was asked. I think it was Ryan Wood that sent this out, if I remember correctly. He said, is the group all together entering this Panthers game? Devondre said, we're making strides right now. It's Wednesday. We like the game plan, so we'll see where we go from here. The next question, are the issues fixed? Quote, we're talking about it, so we'll see if they're fixed. The next question, what stood out on film review? It's just communication. I'm going to say it again. It's just communication. That's it. If everybody's on the same page, a lot of the mistakes that happen don't happen. And then the question was, is lack of communication a coaching issue? See how they're trying to pull that out of him and get him to say, yeah, it's a coaching issue. It's not us. Is lack of communication a coaching issue? No, it ain't about us knowing what to do. We know what to do. It's just about everybody on the field taking and being, let me drop this banner down real quick, taking and being on the same page. So essentially,
everyone talking and being on the same page. I think the bar was under. Yeah,
talking. So it's about everybody on the field talking and being on the same page. Everything we talked about on the film breakdown, everything that Mike Wall talked about, him pointing out Devondre trying to communicate. Someone else pointed out, it was John Kuhn pointed out, do you know why they couldn't hear each other? Because for whatever reason, the defense can't hear each other barking out the calls at Lambeau Field. The former players are all looking at this and kind of going, this is on the players. This is bad communication, right? Now, does that stem from bad coaching? It has to, right? It damn sure don't stem from good coaching, right? But these people that are trying to make this out to sound as if Devondre Campbell was throwing the coaches under the bus, there's your confirmation. Now, I want to go on a little bit of a rant here real quick before we wrap up. Rob Domofsky quote tweeted Devondre Campbell, said, Campbell's response to this today in the locker room, quote, I'm not answering no questions about nothing that happened on the internet. You all want to talk about the Panthers, we can, but I ain't answering no questions about nothing on no internet. Okay, that was his response. So essentially he's saying, if you want to talk football, we'll talk football, but I ain't going to sit here and talk about Twitter, okay? I want you to look at some of the comments under this Rob Domofsky tweet. These are Packer fans, and this is what I'm talking. I'm trying to not to get pissed off here, but this is what I'm talking about. Look at these. Translation, I'm a bitch. Next one, can they just cut him already? Next one, he is playing his last 3 games here. Next one, who the F tweets to themselves in third person, laughing emoji. Here's the next slew. These were like one after another. College level grammar. Next one, LOL, the stuff on the internet is his. Next one, quadruple negative, which means he is answering questions about something that happened on the internet. Ask away. Next one, I'm guessing he got his ASS chewed by someone higher up and was told to shut up. Next one, I'm on the Fire Joe bandwagon. Even the best talent on that defense is underperforming under his scheme. They're completely ignoring what he's actually saying, right? And they're going in basically attacking him. Next slew of tweets. Drama queen, linebackers, gotta love it. Next one, great veteran leadership, get him out of here. Next one, wonderful to see he majored in economics and not linguistics at Minnesota U. Next one, that's a lot of negatives to sift through. Next one, it means I have played my last snap here for the season. So that's how some of the fans responded. And they're still trying to convince themselves that Dre was taking a shot at the coaches. If you haven't figured it out by now, let me help you out, okay? And I know this is nobody in our chat because we've got our chat is awesome. If somebody gets in here and gets disrespectful and tries to get rude with each other, they're getting kicked out. We don't need an extra viewer for people to just get in here and troll and be mean to each other. That's not what this show's about. If you look at these comments, they're refusing to acknowledge what he's actually saying and still trying to paint this narrative that Joe Barry bad, he's the problem, he's the reason. That's who he's talking about. Guys, he's talking to you as a fan base because he had a bad game. Immediately we're talking about, man, he don't look the same. He looks slow. He looks hurt. He looks like he's fighting through injuries. We talked about it ad nauseum. I've gotten hateful tweets, hateful comments in YouTube that I've had to remove off the page because quit making excuses for him. He's washed up. Bro, he's playing freaking hurt.
Bro, if everyone on this team is washed up or you don't like their attitude or they got to go, they're done, then go cheer for the Bears. I'm going to keep repeating myself. Just stop because you either back this team and you want to support the players that play for it, and we can criticize the play, not the player. We talk about that all the time. When you say things like, good thing you majored in economics and not linguistics. Like what the hell does that have to do with football? What does that have to do with anything related to the subject matter other than you taking a shot at someone that supposedly you cheer for? You want to see successful. Here's another thing that boggles my mind. If, in fact, these people want him to be talking about Joe Barry so bad, you would think they would love the comment.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Since they're reading it the wrong way, if they're so convinced that that's who he's talking about, why are you bashing Dre? He would apparently he'd be echoing your sentiment. So again, this finger pointing and yelling and arguing and it's not. I'll tell you what. I agree with the sentiment that some fans have that those comments didn't help the team. Well, let me tell you, you're probably right, but they didn't hurt the team either. just going to be real. What Dre said on Twitter is not. Nobody's busted up in that locker room right now questioning reality. I promise you. These guys got a job to do. And
I guarantee you those same Packers are going to Dre going, hey, man, thanks for speaking up. That's what's going on, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And I'm going to tell you why. This is a rundown of how the season's gone and how toxic this fan base got. Jordan Love is a bum. Have you heard that early in the year? Remember when he hit his rough patch? He's a bum. He's a bust. Get him out of here. I want to see Sean Clifford, right? How do you think Jordan Love responded to Devondre going on Twitter and saying that? The other one, here's one, fire Matt LaFleur. Remember when we were hearing that for several weeks? Fire Matt LaFleur?
Yep.
Christian Watson is a BITCH made of glass. Remember hearing that one several times. He's made of glass. He's soft. He can't stay healthy, blah, 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 right? You think he appreciates what Devondre did going against the fans? Fire Joe Barry. We ain't going to talk about that one. It's still trending, I'm sure. Yep. You think Joe Barry agrees with his comments? And then the whole, cut Campbell because he's underperforming, playing hurt. Like, all of that's happened this year. And it's embarrassing. And
if you had an employee that was not feeling well or maybe was not 100%, and you asked them to come in because you were shorthanded, and they give it their all, but their work's only like 50 or 60% what it normally is. Are you going to bash that employee for coming in and instead of staying home and resting? Or are you going to say, hey, I appreciate the effort. We got it. We'll make some changes. It's like I understand Dre's frustration, and he took it to Twitter to air his frustration with the people that quite frankly want to trash talk him. I get it. I do. I'm not defending it, but I understand it.
Right. Yeah, I agree, man. He's been fighting through like Jen Wright said, he's been fighting through injuries for 2 years. Now, what's crazy is not only did that toxic part of the fan base double down, but then Matt LaFleur comes out in his presser, and this is what he says. Matt LaFleur said he understands Devondre Campbell's frustration. Campbell's post yesterday said they spoke and, quote, we think it's best to try to get his body back because we know what type of player he's been. He did not participate today to, quote, give him an opportunity to get his body back. Let him heal up, basically, right? So underneath this tweet from Rob Demoski, some of the fans tweeted this. Sounds like coach told him to skip practice as punishment for saying bad things about coach's best friend. He didn't say anything bad about Joe Barry. He was talking about the fans. He was talking about the media that was dragging him and the fans, mainly the fans. That's what he was talking about. Next comment, BITCH move by Matt LaFleur. Next comment, LaFleur losing the locker room. Nice work. So immediately people were saying, Coach LaFleur, look at that first comment. Coach LaFleur threw Dre under the bus, basically, for his best friend, Joe Barry. Well, I wonder what Dre said about Matt LaFleur. Let's check it out. Ryan Wood from Devondre Campbell on Time Off Packers, Coach LaFleur granted this week, quote, I appreciate Matt for sure. That's my guy. I've known him for a while, so I definitely appreciate him. Totally the opposite from what fans are saying Dre and Matt LaFleur all of a sudden hate each other. Do you understand that Devondre Campbell came to Green Bay because Matt LaFleur got hired here? He was on the Falcons roster when Matt LaFleur was down there, and he said he loved the way Matt LaFleur coached. He loved his leadership style. He loved how much he loved his players, and he wanted to play for him. Yep. This was his top choice because Matt LaFleur. And fans want to twist it to make it sound like Matt LaFleur is throwing Dre under the bus and gave him time off because he said something bad about his best friend. It's just wild, man. It's like, this is 2023, though. Nothing is rooted in reality. It's just simply, and you'll see people, you go to Twitter right now, you'll see people. They're trying to draw a narrative that, oh, look, these players are getting thrown under the bus for Joe Barry. Nobody threw him under the bus. You watch the tape, and it's miscommunications. They're making mistakes, and the coaching staff hasn't done them any favors. I know it's a boring angle to this whole story, but if the truth is the truth, there's blame to go on both the coaches and the players. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's damn sure plenty of blame to go on the fan base because we've acted like a bunch of spoiled brats this year, man. It's embarrassing. I know people in our chat ain't. That's why it's important. As I go through, I'm going to go through the chat here real quick, all right? First of all, Red Mo said, quote, y'all act like you forgot about Dre. I love that, boy, if you guys ain't. And Chronic 2001, one of the strongest albums ever.
Everybody want to talk like they got something to say, right?
Hey, that's very fitting. We should end the show with that, but we get hit with a copyright. So Derek K says, it's sad that everyone talks slick behind the screen. Go talk to these athletes to their faces. It'll never happen, Derek. It'll never happen. And then Jen Wright says, toxic Twitter. Listen, I know the people in this comment section here, and we got a slew of people in here. I know we've got a ton of people that listen to the pod. I know our fans don't do this, but we have got to be better at being louder than those idiots that just want to try to act like internet tough guys. These players need to see us encouraging them more than the toxic fan base is trying to beat them down. That's how you fix it. Essentially, it's go out and be the change that you want to see in the world. We can go on there and call them out. That makes the problem worse. Pretend like they don't exist. When someone makes a stupid comment, block them, mute them, so they sit there and talk to a wall the rest of their Twitter lives, and let's make sure we're louder as a fan base than those toxic fans. That's how you fix this. Now, you're still going to see podcasters and media members. They're going to put up their Joe Barry hate tweets just to get the interaction and get the extra the extra likes and engagement, because that's how they get recognized on Twitter. That's cool. Let them do their thing. They're going to milk that for everything it's worth, just like they milked everything for what it was worth with Aaron Rodgers and that debacle, right? They're still continuing to try. It's amazing to me. I'm so sick of hearing of Aaron Rodgers. He's on another team now. Can you believe what Aaron Rodgers said? Why are you following and what are we doing? He's not a Packer anymore. So frustrating, man. Anyway, we'll end it with this. Derek K says, hey, man, why don't you stop with this nonsense and spoil up the deal? Hit it one time.
I got a closing statement.
Yeah, what you got, man?
Okay, so we talk about we needed to see a full year from Jordan Love, right? So we can make our judgments. We needed a full season out of LVN, out of our rookies. We want to make better assessments, get to understand, this new Packers team that we have. Some of the old, but mostly new, a lot of new faces looking towards the future, right? So we as fans, you're right, Clayton, we have to do better and realize that, guess what? We need to give ourselves a year. This is new. We've watched an Aaron Rodgers quarterback team for how many seasons? We've had, the same kind of focus for so long. Things are different now. This is new. So we have to give ourselves time to let this play out a little bit. And as far as Devondre Campbell, that guy is incapable of BS. He's like much like Rashawn and a lot of other guys on this team. They're, put it this way, no flash, all substance. That's guys like Devondre Campbell right there. You're not going to get any of the pretty, flashy, cute things for attention out of him. You're going to get all substance. So you see it, you got to say it. I had to say it.
No, absolutely, man. Carly Ray makes a great point here, Tim. I forgot all about this, Carly. It didn't even cross my mind. Maybe Dre can take a leaf from Quay's book and go private with his Twitter account and ignore social media. It just hit me as you said that, Carly. The same exact thing happened to Quay last year. And he literally had to get off Twitter because the fan base was so toxic.
Yep. And what was unfortunate? He followed me right before that happened.
Tim was like, I finally made it.
I was like, what? And then poof. Gone. 72 hours later, no more Twitter.
No doubt. That's a great point, though, Carly. It didn't even cross my mind, but you're right. That's why he got off Twitter, was because he was getting raked over the car. I'll never forget him walking down that tunnel and just how upset he was. It broke my damn heart. I'm just
upset with himself. That's who he was mad at.
Yeah. And they were immediately paying. Look, he's blaming somebody else. No, he wasn't. He is like, you could see it all over his face. He let his teammates down. It was so tough to watch. But we're going to end it on a positive note. I know this right here. Derek K in the chat says, hey, look, let's finish this thing right. He says, John Deere green on a hot summer night, baby.
John Deere green on a hot summer night. He rode Billy Bob loves Charlene.
I'm telling you, the way he hits
that, still loves Devondre.
The way he hits that Charlene, he meant that. And I'm telling you, dude, sound like my Uncle Bill over there singing it. Dead Fish, last comment here as we get ready to wrap up. He says, only one thing left to do. This is a major league quote. Win the whole damn thing. Wouldn't that be something if you go on a little run here, right? And listen, guys, I know people don't want to talk about playoffs, They don't want to. They don't want to be sitting in here listening to us talk about
playoffs. Don't talk about it. Playoffs. You can't.
That cracks me up that the gatekeepers are out saying, "Can we please stop talking about playoffs?" Okay, got you, big dog. All right, just so we know, if they win these last 3 games, which I think we would all agree are winnable games, there was something like the New York Times did a playoff simulator. There's over a 90% chance you make the playoffs. There's an easier way to get there by not having to win all 3, from what I understand, or you have to win all 3 and you just have to have just 1 or 2 things happen. We control our own destiny. We said 6 to 10 wins. It's amazing how those people were so upset you're not allowed to talk about playoffs, but they were the ones getting all hopped up like this team was going to win 12 games somehow, right? Like, calm down, slow your roll. 6 to 10, we hit the floor, right? Which, in my opinion, I think it justifies bringing the majority of the people back that are under contract and then just continue to build on this roster. You're probably going to want to make a change at defensive coordinator. I think we would all agree with that. I've got to the point where I'm tired of hearing people just blame one guy for it. I got to this point with Aaron last year. It was like, I just want him gone now so people can't blame him anymore. Like, because that's all it was last year. That's what Joe Barry's turned into this year. So I'm hoping they move on from him and we just change things up, try to catch one of these defensive schemes that's on the uptick and not already peaked out and coming down the other side. So either way, we're going to be having a blast following it. And then when the offseason does kick off, if we make the playoffs, great. If we don't, we'll get right into the offseason. We'll start diving into the draft, free agency, evaluating the roster at a little bit heavier level. We're going to dip into history stuff. We may do some watch parties for old Packer games in the offseason. I want to treat this offseason as if football season never ended, and we can live kind of the glory years of Green Bay as we get geared up and get closer to OTAs and stuff like that after the draft, after free agency and all that. So it's going to be a fun offseason. I'm looking forward to walking through it with you guys, especially with the new setup. I can't believe this tablets work. This has been awesome on the road. I get back into town. I think we fly out around noon tomorrow, so I should be able to do PTA live tomorrow night from the office, from the studio. So we'll be able to up the quality again. But we appreciate you guys and gals being patient for doing this. So, Tim, parting thoughts, buddy.
That's pretty much it. You guys have a safe trip back to Tennessee, and looking forward to we're doing Good Morning Lambeau tomorrow morning. Or are you guys traveling?
I should be able to let you know by this evening. Be on the lookout for it. If you guys see the link pop up, the listeners, if you see the link pop up in YouTube, if we can go, we'll go at 9 a.m. Eastern time, which is 8 a.m. your time, Tim, normal time. But okay. I got to see when the flight leaves. If it's leaving at noon, we might need to leave here a little earlier that I won't be able to do it. But if it's at all possible, I'll let you know. And if not, we'll definitely do a PTA live tomorrow night, though. So awesome.
Other than that, just we're a 1 week at a time team right now, guys. Let's worry about Carolina. And we get the dub Sunday, we move to the next week. I mean, the playoffs have already started. I mean, the only way is to win out. So you can't win out if you don't win Sunday. So go Pack, go.
Got it. Appreciate you, buddy. It's been fun talking ball with you while we're on the road here. Swizzley in the chat said, thank you so much, guys. This was a great show as always. Hey, we appreciate you hanging out with us, buddy. Thank you for the kind words. Carly Ray said, Clayton, have breakfast with your wife tomorrow. That would be nice. She's
what an idea.
Yeah, she's about exhausted, Carly. She's been out there at the parks. I don't know how she does it, man. I'm out there for 10 minutes. I'm ready to choke somebody. I'm ready to whoop somebody's kid and chase somebody down who's being loud in my ear or touch me. God forbid they touch me. I'm just not a people person. Unless we're at a football game, that's fine. Cram me into a stadium of 74,000 people, I'm fine. You put me in a theme park, I want to choke people. It's funny how that works. But anyway, Doug in the chat said, no big deal on Thursday morning, guys. Take a break. Appreciate you, Doug. All right, we're out of here, guys. Thank you all for all the awesome feedback from the Mike Wall interview. I just love learning so much from him, man. I'm excited to continue that partnership and have him on the show and continue to talk ball with him. He's just an awesome guy. I love his approach. He's always bringing a logical approach to breaking down what's actually happening on the field. We're going to continue that. So with that being said, we're out of here, guys. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go, Pack, go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man who is inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. Try to run this play in the alley.